Good morning, YouTubers. 257 Pathfinder here, doing a repair and rebuild of our vacuum pump and power steering pump on our Dodge. We have had a leak since we've owned the truck. We bought it used, and after several years of watching it bleed on the driveway, we finally decided to fix it. It looks as though the leak was coming from this juncture here, this flat nut interface with the power steering reservoir. When I would wipe this area clean, when it was in the truck, I could watch fluid drip down almost visibly to here. So I suspect this interface here is what's causing the leak. And based on what I read on forums, looked as though we were also getting a leak here. So based on what I read in other places, we decided to rebuild the vacuum pump at the same time. So what's probably happening is we've got an oil leak from the vacuum pump side coupled with a power steering fluid leak from the reservoir side. The obvious indication on this one of being clearish or red, depending on the color of power steering fluid you're using, versus a darker black depending on the quality of the oil coming from this side. And the junction is right here in the interface. There's plenty of information at this point on the internet, particularly Mr. Gould's video. He has an hour-long video on rebuilding this thing, so I won't repeat what he's done. That's an excellent video. I recommend watching the full hour, and the information that he shares is simply brilliant. So I'll focus simply on some of the new stuff in the process that I'm going through. Once we've got this out, I reckon it's also a good time to inspect these teeth, the timing gear that goes into the timing shaft. And the wear on most of these is really minimal, which I can understand because this pump, vacuum pump and power steering pump, probably don't provide a whole lot of resistance, and this is a pretty beefy gear. So the important thing is we're not seeing any chip teeth. That was an indication that Mr. Gould recommended looking for, and that was a result of, what did he say, something about a dowel pin. This truck has had that modification. It's a 98. And then also there was another particular situation about a keyway, and I don't remember exactly, but it would land from the engine onto these teeth, and that when they mesh with the timing gears, it would shear some of these off. So if you watch his video, you'll see that. Ours, thank God, doesn't have that situation, or we'd be dealing with a whole lot bigger rebuild. So I know that I can get a new reservoir. I thought about simply JB welding this sucker, but I'm probably going to buy a new reservoir for $62 plus the core at Napa, and then get into rebuilding. The seal kit that I got from Cummins for about $16 came with instructions. Mine are already a bit dirty. Please forgive the shaky camera. It's super hot and I had to muscle this guy out, so I was probably doing something wrong. Seal kit comes like so. It has this guy that attaches for the vacuum pump, and then there's several other rings that I'll shake out here. 3 other rings, O-ring as the oil seal, and then another O-ring. But that's all obvious too. So again, I'll focus on challenges that I faced and the results of really quickly. So here's our beast. You'll see her in other videos I've posted online. Here's the old gasket from previously. This is the intake, or the I think it's the boost, because I found, and based on the recommendations from somewhere else, it best to remove that coupler for the boost inlet. Stuffed it with some paper, so I'll have to remember to take that out, and because I needed to get that hunk through this space here, which presented a not insignificant challenge. So I've tied off all the lines, put some paper over them. I needed to drain the fluid, which I followed per instructions. There was a wiring harness I had to remove. I'll pop a look under here for those that might be interested, because I know these trucks are pretty popular And as much as I take advantage of these videos and stuff on the forums online, I figure it's appropriate to share with other people. So looking up into where that pump came out of, you can see I've plugged some clean paper packing material from the seal kit that was sent to me. Showed up by a UPS this morning. Covered that up. That's where the oil line connects. There's a line on top of the steering gear right here that I disconnected. Again, all these are listed in the instructions, so don't feel like I'm giving you A, an exhaustive list, or B, that this is the best way to do it. I'd follow the instructions. I found those to be the most useful. I'm just pointing out some challenges that I faced, maybe to save some knuckles from other people. Definitely want to watch out for these guys under here. For sure, if I hadn't been wearing gloves, would have torn a nice gouge in my hand. But any mechanic worth his salt would know that. Here's the top of the fitting to the steering gear that I covered and disconnected the hose. Gould recommends slicing them with a razor blade. I found a pair of channel locks or a pair of pliers, twisting on the rubber just a bit to break the seal. Gave me enough to slide it off once the clamp was removed. What else is worth showing in here? I don't want to get fluid on my camera. The grounding and power cable was supporting the unit. It's not terribly heavy, probably about 10 or 15 pounds, and that helped in supporting it up. My wife's idea was to drop it out at the bottom. It doesn't look to me like there's enough space to do that, so we went out the top. And trying to be as careful as we possibly could with all the hoses and valves. Some recommend disconnecting the high pressure line up by the steering column. I found it easier to reach in from below. Down here behind the differential, I reached up with a wrench facing the other direction. You can see my hand here. Reached up with a wrench through here and broke that loose, and you can see the end of that fitting right here. I think that's about all I wanted to show. Again, as usual, if there are questions, please feel free to make a comment respectfully in the sections allowed on my YouTube channel. And if you have any input, better ways to do this kind of thing, then I'm certainly open to it. Thank God for the neighbor down the street who was giving away this free rolling tray, because that's helped with the process. So again, I removed the boost intake, build it up, tug this guy back a good stout bit. I was having to put a decent amount of pressure. Broke free both the battery terminals. One thing I noticed could have been particularly life-threatening was when lifting that unit out through this space here, resting any bit of it across those battery terminals. So when I go to put it back in, I'll probably lay a bit of paper or rag over something, and would recommend someone else do the same, because that probably wouldn't be fun. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching.